Good morning, everybody. It's Pastor David. I hope you are staying warm this morning and are well rested. I got woken up this morning about 3 o'clock in the morning, our house shaken from the artillery drills that they're doing, I guess. So we'll see how cogent I am today, but hopefully what I'll say will make sense to you. So we're so glad that you're with us. The last couple weeks we've been talking about being commitment. We've been talking about priorities. And so today I want to transition a little bit and I want to talk about prayer. You see, the truth is the relationships that we commit ourselves to, the people that we are most committed to, that we most prioritize in our life, are usually the people that we have the closest relationships with. And the same is true of our spiritual relationship, our relationship with God. The more that we are in tune with Him, the more that we are in relationship with Him, we'll find that we become more committed to Him, and how we establish and maintain and grow that relationship primarily is through the act of prayer. Often we've relegated prayer to this thing that maybe we do before meals, or maybe a quick thank you here and there. Probably more often when things go wrong in our lives and a problem arises, we'll take a second and maybe ask God to do something for us. But how much time do we really spend just developing, deepening our relationship with God? Paul wrote that we should pray unceasingly, all the time. Does this mean that we go monk style and just spend all day on our hands and knees in this kind of ritual of prayer? I don't think that's what Paul meant by that. I think what Paul meant is that all the time, in every moment of each day, we're listening for the voice of God. And every moment of each day, we are opening ourselves up to hear from God. Because the truth is that prayer is a dialogue, not a monologue. If all of my prayer life is just speaking at God, if all of my prayer life is never listening for God's voice, then I have a problem. I mean, the reality is, if we know that God's wisdom is greater than our wisdom, why do we always want to try to tell Him what to do instead of listen for His wisdom for us? But if we're going to build this relationship with God, if we're going to learn to trust God, if we're going to learn to love God, if we're going to learn to have this deep, meaningful relationship with God, these conversations with God, then we have to constantly put our hearts, we have to constantly put our ears on alert, we have to put our hearts on alert that we are constantly listening, we are constantly in tune with the Spirit of God, we're constantly listening for the voice of God in each moment. And even just, things that I do, like I go through my day, I'll have an interaction with somebody, or I know I've got a meeting coming up, I'll just take a minute and just pray. God, what would you have me say in this meeting? What would you have me do in this circumstance? God, how did I handle that conversation? Did I handle it appropriately? Did I do the right thing? And you'll find that as you engage in prayer in this way, as you engage in this relational deepening with God, you'll find that it's not so much that God changes the world around you, but that He begins to change you from the inside out, that He begins to transform your life, that He begins to shift your thinking to become more like the character of Christ. And isn't that the prayer of all of our hearts? That we would become more like Jesus. And so I encourage you today, this week, this month, as you continue on in your walk with Jesus, to just be engaged in building relationship through prayer, through this dialogue with God, which involves listening for His voice on a daily basis, and just spending time relating to God, and you'll find that many of these other aspects will begin to develop much easier in your life. We love you today. We praise God for you. I hope to see you on Sunday at church. And if you're not in the Lawton area, I hope that you'll join us online. Go in His grace and in His mercy this week. Blessings.